And now, before this week's episode of From Half Court, is our feature presentation of the national anthem. Flavor Flav.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight last.
That's 3 minutes, Troy. I can't. That is 3.
You know who did a great job, though, Sean, was the young lady who sang on opening night at Little Caesars Arena on Saturday.
How would you compare her performance to Flavor Flav? What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, Friday, November 3rd. Sorry we're late, but better late than never, even when we're clever. I am one of your hosts, Sean Murphy, alongside the 6'3" behemoth from Indiana, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy that came all the way to Michigan for opening night. Troy, it's good to see you, and I commend you because unlike someone else who's on this podcast, you not only came to the game, but you stayed for the entirety of it.
I did. Why would Jeff leave?
Brady, this is a call out to you, mother. You left early opening night 2 years in a row, you scumbag. No, I'm kidding.
I've heard a rumor too that he leaves games early in other games as well that are not the opening night.
Whoa!
So it might be like more like a 10 game pattern. I think.
Whoa!
Yeah, this is not 2 is not the streak, Sean.
Whoa!
2 is not the streak.
Oh, Jeff Iafrate, the chronic game leaver. Oh man. Well, we're going to be excited when Jeff comes back to defend that. He is actually getting ready for surgery. So we shout out and prayers for our boy. Nothing serious, just getting that beautiful chomper of his fixed. But guys, let's talk some basketball. When I say guys, I mean Troy and all of you sitting at home, because this is From Half Court each and every week. Troy, myself, Jeff, we sit down and talk all things basketball, primarily Detroit basketball, but really any basketball that our heart can, really our hands can get on because of the junkies that we are. If you like this podcast, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you're not missing any of the content coming to the channel, but also be sure you're following my guys on social media so you're not missing anything that they're doing. Be sure you follow my guy, Jeff, on X at Jeff Iafrate, Troy on X at Troy Sergey 44, and check out Jeff Monday through Friday on the Morning Woodward Show as well. Do me a favor and support the boys. But anyway, Troy, let's get right into it, man. I mean, at this point, you know, when this podcast will have come out, there will have been 5 full games that'll have been completed. Currently, there's been about 4 at this point in the season. We're at 2-2. Which, you know, overall, I'd say is about as good of a start as I'd say someone could ask for a team, you know, especially that won 17 games last season. And I mean, you could make a legitimate argument. This team should be 4-0. And for them to be, you know, in that position, you know, a few games in, I think overall, from my vantage point, they are playing much better basketball early than I thought they would, while simultaneously giving a lot of room of potential for growth. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, actually, we're 2-3, not 2-2.
2-3. There were 5. Okay, or you know, that's the way the season happens, man. It's just, it could all be a blur. Some
Yeah,
losses
yeah,
just mix
yeah,
into the when certain losses are as painful as they are. I guess you just like
yeah,
I don't really get pained by
yeah.
losses anymore. But
Anyways, what do I
anyway,
think about this team in the first couple of games?
yeah, I
I,
mean,
I
2-3
actually
still is a really good place to be at, especially seeing that this team very much could be 4-1.
right. I think so. And I think the big thing that I see is honestly, they're kind of meeting my expectations to a degree. I thought that we would be stronger, of course, obviously, than we were last year with a healthy Cade. I do think that Assar brings in such an awesome presence on the defensive end. I think having certified bucket getters like Joe Harris and Alec Burks, we had Burks last year, but Harris this year helps. I think a off-season to Jalen Duren's credit, has made him a lot better player and
Oh my
a
gosh.
strong and improved Jalen Duren. So, a lot of the things I was looking forward to, I'm seeing. And for that, I'm happy. But I tell you, though, Sean, as we talked about before, last night's game against the Trailblazers, as of a recording, that was tough. And I think a lot of us Pistons fans who are listening will agree with me. That was just a tough loss to take. That was so our game to win. We were up by 18 at one point. We had no reason to lose that game, but we did. Stupid turnovers, fouling got kind of out of hand. I think we as a team have things to improve on, of course, obviously, but I'm happy where they are. Because I know that last night's game against Portland, we're better than that. I know even our wins, Charlotte and Chicago, those are games that we could have even played better than, and we still won pretty single-handedly, right? So I'm excited at what this team can do. I am in no way, shape, or form in panic mode. Let's get a dub tonight against New Orleans as of we're recording.
Yeah. I I think we're in a lot better of a situation or in position that fans might feel that we're in. I think this fan base is definitely riding the emotions of the season, and through 2-1 it was like, "Oh, this team could win 40 games." And then after the last loss, like after every single loss, I've seen different players in trade blocks. I've seen the reactions after each game are becoming stronger and stronger, which is that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day. But what I would say is through 5 games, this team is a top 10 defense in the NBA. We were hoping that this team, would be would climb out of being a bottom 10 defense, albeit 5 games. We're not sure realistically how long they're going to keep up that level, but if they can, we see the potential of what this team can look like on the defensive end. And, we always talked about if this team was going to take a jump, it was going to have to be because players are developing or players are taking the next steps in their game. And it was going to have to be somebody, other than Cade, because we knew that he was going to look good. We knew that he was going to come in, and be solid. Like we knew all he had to do was be healthy. And we're getting exactly the Cade Cunningham, that we thought that we would get. Like he has been everything and more. Some people on Twitter might tell you otherwise, but I definitely think that I definitely think he's played really well. In fact, per Pistons PR, entering tonight's game versus New Orleans as we're recording, Cade Cunningham is one of 4 NBA players averaging at least 21 points and 6 assists on 40% shooting from 3. The other 3 players, Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey. He's the 3rd Piston since 2000-2001 to score 30 points at least twice in the first 5 games. The other 2, Tobias Harris and Blake Griffin. So, I mean, you look at the performance he's had overall so far. I think it's been super solid. Do I think it's hyper fixated just because he's our franchise player? Absolutely. But I mean, the turnovers are definitely the biggest issue of this team so far. But Troy, I mean, ultimately, I think that's like the one area of their game where they've most looked like a young team. If you would have told me that they'd be playing this effort, this level of defense at the All-Star break, I'd be thrilled. The fact they're doing it in the first 5 games makes me excited about what their trajectory is, even just over the next year or 2.
Right, right. And I think coaching has a lot to do with it. I think Monty Williams demands, not expects, demands this team to be present on the defensive end, demands them to get stops on the defensive end. And a player that I'm sure we're going to touch on a little bit, Jaden Ivey, I think this is a challenge for him. I think in this new role coming off the bench is a challenge for him to be more alert, be more active on the defensive end. And last night against Portland, we saw a few steals. I think that was great. So I see his presence improving already. I think there's a hunger. I like Jaden Ivey's game so far this year. I think he's improved on both ends of the court as last year. But yes, the defensive end, and of course, the guy running the show, literally 5 games into his NBA career, Assar Thompson is the guy, right? I mean, everything that we see out of Assar is promising on the defensive end, exciting. I mean, this is a guy that will be an all defensive player in the NBA one day.
He could be that within the next couple of years.
Yeah,
I mean, the level he's
absolutely.
playing.
Absolutely. So I think, what did he have? 3 blocks that very first game against
5
blocks against the Miami Heat there. And one of them was in the first couple minutes against Jimmy Butler. And no fear, go up there and swat that thing.
Oh yeah, and then he even got ones later against Bam Adebayo. Like he got like multiple swats against all-star level players.
Right, and to be a wing level player and to have that energy, I think really brings a lot. Not just the on the ball defense, but the off the ball too. I think he's done a great job.
Well, and he's 6'6". He's the shortest guy in the lineup, and he's our 3rd leading rebounder.
Yeah,
and he's one of our leaders in blocks. I mean, the dude, like the instincts that he has is just the part that's the most impressive. And the fact that he can, come in and play, such a high level of basketball in, specifically the areas of the game where we see young guys come in and perhaps struggle the most, right? Like these, like the areas that Assar Thompson's struggling in are the areas that you were just touching on, Jaden Ivey having to grow and learn and having to like get those aspects of the games, like just to speak to like the IQ and the the overall just like the impact that he has on the game already is just insane. But on top of that, like the thing that's been really impressive is especially the first couple of games, his offense really hasn't been there. But over the last couple of games in particular, he's been starting to get hit, he's been starting to contribute more, and it hasn't really even been with shooting. It's been with cutting to the basket and getting into the fast break. And man, we thought this team was fun in the open court before. You add freaking Assar Thompson into this mix. You add an improved Jalen Duren as a rim runner. Troy, in 5 games, I think I've already seen some of the best alley-oops in the history of the franchise. And we've literally been like a week into the season.
Right. Just when you thought Will Bynum to Andre Drummond was the best thing, you get Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham. You get Cunningham to Assar Thompson.
I never thought Will Bynum and Andre Drummond was the best. I'm sorry. I never thought that.
I did, Sean.
You poor bastard.
My life. I didn't think it would get better than that.
Oh, no.
Then I grew up and became an adult.
Oh, I'm so glad you grew up. But I think that, so the most impressive thing to me, like getting back to Jalen Duren, is, we talk about it all the time. The dude is still 19 years old. But the thing that's the most impressive is he so clearly has an understanding of how he impacts the game. So I actually attended opening night, as in the media section, and I actually got to go to the post-game press conference. And I actually asked Jalen Duren about something that Monty mentioned before the game, because he said that, Jalen Duren would talk to the other bigs about how they can affect the game with their physicality. So I just want to show that Q&A real quick, because I think, it's just super insightful, just, how smart this guy is too, on top of how strong he is.
Say before the game, Monty talked about how you talk to the other bigs about how you guys can affect the game with your physicality. How much does it excite you about the level of play that you guys have been able to maintain for your first 3 games, but balance that with the excitement that you guys have with so much room to grow and the potential of what you guys can do together?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's our advantage. Stu is a big guy. I'm a big guy. Marv and Waz, we're all big guys. So I feel like that's the way we can just affect the game with every team, just kind of being physical the whole game. and making people feel that. So that's something that I like to just, keep reminding our bigs about. Like, we can keep being aggressive, always being aggressive, because people don't like that. They don't like when you're always hitting them and touching them, and over the course of the game, they kind of just shy away from it.
And I mean, that's exactly what's happened over the first few games, especially as he's been in the lineup. Like I think, especially even that difficult loss to Portland, it's hard pressed to see a lot of those things happening when Jalen Duren's on the court. And I mean, we were talking before the podcast, Troy.
Yeah.
We were talking about how we think that Jalen Duren has has Bam Adebayo potential. We were saying that in his rookie season. But I mean, he looks like Bam Adebayo right now. That's what's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. If not, maybe better at that age, right?
Oh, at that age, without a question at that age. Respect to Bam Adebayo, but at that age, that's the thing. He looks like Bam Adebayo at 25. And he's 19.
19 years old. Yeah, no, we got an all-star. I actually think this guy will be an all-star in the next 5 years.
Without a doubt. It's not a matter of if, it's a
I
matter
have no
of
doubt
when.
about it.
Well,
that physicality that he brings, Sean, few bigs have that
Yep.
energy, that athleticism. But our guy has it. And I'm excited to see what the future, and having Cade along his side only makes him better, right? And we didn't have that last year.
Well, not only that, but it raises Cade's ceiling as well. Just because you talk about the spacing that it adds to the court. Like, even though this team still needs to get more spacing, as far as shooting and as far as through the perimeter. But I mean, the vertical spacing that this adds to the team, and the amount that, he takes pressure off of the guards, with his ability to get to the rim and to finish, pretty much any lob that you throw his way. I mean, him and Cade, clearly, there was an interview that Jalen and Cade did with The Athletic. Shout out our guy James. And they talked a little bit about, the time that Duren and Cade spent together this offseason, in Texas, working together and making up for the lost time, that they had, through this season. That, how many minutes they played together last year, Troy? 79 minutes.
79 minutes. Wow.
And you think they've probably already eclipsed that in the first 4 games here, or the first 4 or 5 games they've played together. And just the sheer chemistry it looks like they've been playing together for years.
Yeah.
And so you talk about we talk about the best pick and roll combos, in this league. I think this is certainly, if you think of the pick and rolls that have the most potential, this has to be at the top of the list, just because Jalen Duren, we don't even know what his finished product is. This is still early days Jalen Duren. And so, especially with how good Cade's looked, particularly on the offensive end, I mean, those guys are going to be a problem for years to come. We're seeing why the hype was there out of those 2 guys in Team USA Select. It's carrying right over into the league.
Right. And also to know how we got Jalen Duren, right? We were struggling to know what we do with Jeremy Grant heading into that offseason in late 2020, 2022, 2021, 2022 year. And we traded him for a first-round pick, and then we flipped that first-round pick for the 11th pick. I believe that was Charlotte, and we got Jalen Duren. So to know that Troy Weaver saw the vision.
It was the 15th pick, actually.
15th, okay. So Troy Weaver still saw the vision. So he saw the potential in this guy. And I think we even talked about at 5. We briefly brought up Duren's name, but then we're like, no, he's taking IV, right? So,
well, Troy said he would have been glad to take him at 5.
Yeah. I'm talking about us, though, us fans. We thought maybe there was a chance, but at the same time, we were like, he's going to take IV. But yes, Troy Weaver himself was thinking that, which shows an even crazier dynamic to my point of how much Weaver believed in this guy. So,
yeah, 100%. And so, as much as, people might, have freaked out about, Jaden Ivey's place in the starting, in the starting lineup, or, in the rotation from day one, and freaking out about, wanting to make sure we have that co-star. I mean, with respect to Jaden Ivey, I mean, as good as I still think he is and can be, I think Jalen Duren's the co-star to Cade that can take
Yes.
this team to other heights. And I mean, this team's always done it with a great big and a great guard, right?
Right,
And
right. And
so
that opening night, man, at Chicago, did we ever see a physical, strong, athletic, scoring, offensive, defensive minded guy? He was
every
all over
game,
the floor, all over the
every
floor.
single game, Jalen Duren is dominated, like every single
Yeah.
aspect. And he and Isaiah Stewart both have just irritated the living hell out of opposing defenses.
Right, right. Tonight, I know he's not going to be technically down low for all the game. I think he'll get to the wing a little bit, but Zion, I'm
He's out.
very curious. Oh, he's out. Oh, never mind. I
Zion
was
Williamson and Brandon Ingram are both out.
okay. I was going to say that would be an interesting matchup to see when he tries to go down low of what Duran and Stewart would do to him. So,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just thinking about like the matchups going forward, like we've already seen him hold his own against Bam Adebayo, right? We've already seen him, like make guys' lives like Nikola Vucevic very difficult. And even the more, even the, even having to face off against, the other center from Charlotte, in the second night of the season. And I mean, as good as Mark Williams has looked for Charlotte at times, I mean, he doesn't look like he has the ceiling of that.
right.
So,
And PJ Washington,
I mean, yeah, that's a whole other. I mean,
not comparable to our guys.
well, no, he had one good game and then he cooled off, and even then he had that like dumb flagrant against Isaiah Stewart. But yeah, I think overall, like you look at the trajectory of what this team can do, like I think, it's super high. I mean, we've talked about like, like with Killian, like what's going to be the thing that's going to, ultimately affect his place in the lineup. And it was always going to be, like, can he knock down the shots? Can he transfer that solid play from the preseason over to the regular season? And it looks like, albeit only through 5 games, the answer yet again for 2 years in a row is no. And, currently, albeit 5 games, and even though, the team's 2-3, they've looked pretty competitive. He's done well on the defensive end. Killian's averaging 6 points. I mean, 6.4 points, 3.6 assists, shooting 27% from the field and 23% from 3. I mean, it's not even just the fact that, he's not making, he's not making like, shots. He's not making open shots, like he's not making the, the easy opportunities that he is getting. And you're talking about like, what are the things that are going to get Jaden Ivey potentially back in the lineup pretty quickly? It's going to be, obviously elevated play on the defensive end. But on top of that, it's going to be if they need scoring, like if they need someone to go out and actually like, space the floor a little bit, that's definitely going to have to be in play. But also, I definitely think with how solid he's played so far, I wonder if we see Marcus Sasser in the starting lineup at all,
Right.
which,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
which speaks well to how solid he's looked even in his early
Right.
minutes.
And I think Monty Williams trusts Sasser a lot on the offensive end. I think he makes smart basketball-minded plays that helps the team, and that's a great thing for a rookie to have, let alone a rookie that you took in the later first round. So yeah, no, I fully agree with that. Starting lineup, that'll be interesting. I'm not sure if I quite see that 100%, Sean, but I certainly see this guy with our team more than the Motor City Cruise, right? I mean, that was a debate that we had a lot this summer.
And I'm not saying he's going to stay in the starting lineup, like quite frankly, like
Yeah.
I think if he were to enter the starting lineup, I think it would just be until Bojan or Monte Morris.
Yeah.
From
And by
injury.
the way, do we have a timeline with Bojan? I can't remember.
So the timeline is essentially he's going to be reevaluated within the next couple of weeks. Essentially, to start the season, they said that they would reevaluate him in 4 weeks. So it's essentially just kind of a matter of when. I'd imagine it's probably going to be at some point mid to late November or early December that we see Bojan.
Yeah, I couldn't wait a month for him.
Yeah, and I
Get
mean,
well soon, brother.
especially wait a little bit longer when you've seen, like as far as, like Joe Harris, he looks like he has more life in his legs than people gave him credit for. I mean,
Absolutely.
like we talked about on this podcast, the possibility of him actually still being pretty good. And he actually has not looked too bad through a couple of games, but man, we talk about, how reliable this guy's been in a Pistons uniform from day one. I mean, we talk about Alec Burks, man. I mean, just how good he's been on the offensive end. I mean, Monty's talked about, like he's not getting enough credit for what he's done defensively either. Like he's not a world beater,
Mhm.
but he holds his own on
Yeah,
both sides of the basketball. I mean, when you
right,
have like a veteran who's that valuable, you can bring in, who's that consistent of a scorer, that solid of a shooter, but also like he calms the team down and keeps the scoring going even when Cade's not on the court, which is
right.
something that this team really needs. And I mean, granted, Cade's, it's not like Cade hasn't been on the court much. He's been averaging 35 minutes a game already to start the season. So
Yeah,
any questions about his health or his legs or if they were going to be managing his minutes at all, that has not been the case. He's been out there, which has been
right.
great to see.
Yeah, awesome to see. We really missed him last year,
Has
obviously.
your has your thoughts about what this team's win total can be, expectations of like what this team can do this season, has any of that changed through 5 games?
It's added a little bit. I guess I was kind of around the 31 mark, and now I'm gonna bump it up to the 33 mark. So not much, but I'll give them 2 more games than I thought they'd win. Um, so how about you, Sean? What's your win prediction total?
Yeah, I mean, to me, if anything, I think these first couple of games have solidified to me that like if healthy, this is a 30 plus win team. Like like in my opinion, they are poised to take at least a 13 win jump. I mean, you look
Yeah,
at I mean, even like a guy that we haven't talked about much, in this pod, but deserves a lot of credit for his play as well through the first 2 games. Isaiah Stewart has been phenomenal and has shown like, exactly why he was signed to the contract that he was given. And so like, it for me, like the problems and like the things that this team's dealing with, they're concerns, but they're not enough of concerns to where I think this team isn't going to be able to, you know, overcome them, right? Like I think their problems are pretty easily fixable. Now they're going to have to figure out the spacing thing pretty quickly. Like if you're not going to be able to shoot the ball, that's only going to, make your turnover issue worse and that's only going to,
yeah,
make things harder for guys like Cade. But I think at the same time, like especially if we continue to see some good things, like throughout the season, this team's set up to have over $80 million in salary cap going into next season.
right. Yeah,
So who knows? They could very well be poised to do something at the deadline, Troy. They could be in
yeah,
a
which is
position
so
to
exciting.
absorb some salary cap. So
Yeah,
I'm not saying that they even do anything crazy at the
yeah.
deadline, but they're realistically we're starting to get some more clarity of what this roster needs and more importantly what this roster perhaps doesn't need.
You can't make a statement like that, Sean, without me asking this question because I know our fans are jumping to it right now of asking if the Pistons were to make a deadline deal in mid-February, who not necessarily who would we trade, but who would be a guy that's playing for a different uniform right now that is very attainable. It's very they would be a quote unquote easy guy to get that you would love to see with this core. Give 2 or 3 names.
Well, if there were easy guys to get, Troy would pick up the phone tomorrow. But man, gosh, I mean, we talked about like some names of like, as far as like teams to look out for that, very well might have to be making some trades or be making some moves. I mean, the Bulls, we saw them in person, Troy. I mean, you saw what I saw. That team is not going absolutely anywhere.
Even
I
with
think
50 plus from Levine, they're not going anywhere.
no, nope. And another team, the Raptors, they're gonna have to make a decision at some point about who the heck they are. So I mean, who knows? I mean, like for me personally, I'd be all eyeballing guys like Zach, like Alex Caruso. I'd be all eyeballing guys like OG Ananobi. I'd be looking at guys, who can complement this core, as far as like what we're trying to build on both sides of the ball. Someone who can space the floor and add defense. Because like I don't really think we even need to add another like at this moment. I think if we just like solidified more of our rotation and added some more complementary guys who can do some, who can shoot the three and play solid defense. that raises the ceiling of our team, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a fair statement to make. And you're right. Even with a guy like Caruso, you bring a high defensive minded guy who will run around the court with you. I could see Imani Williams really liking having a guy like him on your team.
Yep.
I could
Every
see,
team in the league's going to want him if he becomes available, though. Like, he
yeah,
is going to be a hot commodity.
yeah, yeah. And Anunoby's always interesting. I remember last deadline we talked about how he'd be a good fit in Memphis, just because he brings in some high scoring and some good defensive play. Kind of certainly above average NBA player. Yeah, those are good 2 picks. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, who knows? I mean, there's still a ton, there's still 77 more games to go this year. There's still a lot of basketball yet to be played. But I mean, just early on, I mean, overall, I mean, it's hard not to be pleased, with what they've been doing. Troy, what have there been any takeaways that you've had from watching like any other teams throughout the league? I mean, I know for me personally, I think Denver's going to repeat this thing, man. I think if they stay healthy, I don't see a team beating them. I mean, oh
yeah,
my gosh. Did you
yeah.
see did you see that inbound lob from Jokic?
I guess not.
Oh my gosh. Dude.
Yeah, but
People
to answer your question while you're bringing that up, I didn't really think Victor would have this big of an impact on the Spurs. I knew he'd be great. I knew he'd be front runner for Rookie of the Year. I knew the Spurs would be obviously a better team with him. But I mean, they shocked the world and beat Phoenix the other night in Phoenix. And then Kevin Durant played awesome that game. So if Vic in his rookie year is going head to head and winning matchups against Kevin Durant in his first 5 games, my goodness gracious. So the Spurs have been a little bit bigger of a surprise I thought they would be. Phoenix, been missing Bradley Beal, been missing Booker.
I
Lakers
mean, yeah.
have an interesting dynamic going on there. LeBron is being LeBron James, not aging one bit. But Anthony Davis, I saw a take with Colin Cowherd today, and essentially it was like it would be more ideal for LeBron to have a younger up and coming star who can give you 70 games a year. And it's unfortunately that Davis is kind of your sidekick there when he's out so many games. And when he's in, you don't really know what he's going to get. But it's made LeBron have to play more minutes and carry the load more, which at his old age isn't necessarily ideal. But the Lakers, if you get AD healthy, as we've been saying every year, and they went to the Western Conference Finals last year, they're a team that could make the Western Conference Finals again. Could. If I'm putting money on them, no. But LeBron, I never want to count out LeBron.
I'm just going to say it, Troy. They're frauds. They're absolute frauds in every single sense of the word. They were not that good last year to begin with. When they got to the Western Conference Finals, it was off of the back, albeit of some solid play from LeBron James. But I mean, let's be honest, the Lakers also did kind of run into a little bit of luck as well. I think if the Warriors don't have that Jordan Poole situation, I don't think the Lakers even get past the second round. Overall, like I think if you looked at especially in particular with how the Lakers have looked to start this season, I mean, we have to just stop with but if Anthony Davis, he's not that guy. He's never going to be that guy. The only time he's been that guy was quite literally in a bubble.
Right.
and it's pretty easy to be ready to go and win a championship when you have more time in between the end of the season and beginning of the bubble than there is between a end of the season and the beginning of that's literally how long of time there was between when COVID shut down and when the bubble started up.
Sure.
You don't get an off season in the middle of every season to recoup in order to get ready to go play the playoffs.
I guess my big point is that LeBron James is still playing well, and it's a shame Anthony Davis is his sidekick.
He is still playing well, but it's year 21. He's 30. He's 38 now, I believe. Like, at what point does LeBron have a significant injury? At what point does or even just a injury? Because let's be honest, how many miles he has on his body,
Yeah.
You know, like you don't expect him to be in the lineup every single night. So, I mean, I'm just going to be interested to see how this team holds up throughout the season, just because, I mean, granted, it's only been 5 games, but I mean, yeah, I at least outside of LeBron have not been extremely impressed. But, you
Dallas
know,
has won a few games.
yeah, Dallas is 4-0. They're undefeated. Wasn't expecting that even a little bit. You know who's actually been playing pretty well for them? Derek Lively, their
Yeah,
rookie
the
big from
rookie.
Duke. He's been I thought he was going to be I thought it was going to be a long time before he could even contribute anything, but he's actually been playing some pretty solid hoops. Like his rebounding has been really good. Like he's giving them like some form of athleticism in the post, which they didn't have. I still don't really know if I actually believe in the Mavericks, like a whole lot, but I mean, defensively, they're definitely better with Grant Williams on the roster than they were last year. And I mean,
Yeah.
Luka's definitely looking incredible to start the season. Like any
Yeah.
questions about that guy can always be put to rest.
And we knew that in the summer with some of his summer play with FIBA that he'd be good. So
Oh yeah. I mean, he is that guy. He's been that guy. He will be that guy. I think the most interesting thing to me, now, I mean, obviously there was the big trade that happened with James Harden. Not only,
Yeah.
am I interested, in what the Clippers situation is going to be like, because I mean, it's an over under on how many games until it becomes a nightmare, right?
Right.
Like it's only a matter of time.
And if/when things don't work out with the Clippers,
Oh yeah.
it's
It's going to
gonna
be a nightmare.
be Harden's fault because things were going okay without him. I mean, things were Kawhi Leonard was playing okay, Paul George was playing okay, Russell Westbrook himself was playing okay, and then you threw in Harden, and then your team underperforms. Is that gonna fall on Kawhi? No.
Well, I mean, I
It's gonna
I don't
fall
even
on
think it's gonna
James
fall on
Harden.
Harden. I think honestly at that point, it's gonna just be a total indictment on just the Clippers franchise, because the thing that's gonna be that'll be devastating for them if this doesn't work is that you can't blame Steve. You can't blame Steve. You can't blame Steve Ballmer anymore, or no, not Steve Ballmer. You can't blame Donald Sterling anymore for your team's misdoings or for your team's overall dysfunction. This team had a terrible owner for years. Donald Sterling was ousted from the league. They brought in Steve Ballmer, who spent every single penny that he possibly needed to from the time that he's brought in from the time that he bought the franchise. And even ever since they've had Kawhi and Paul George in the building, it's been a nightmare.
It's going to be very interesting. A storyline that I think all of our eyes are going to be looking at. And I think what's going to be really interesting is to see how the other guys like Kawhi and Paul George will respond. Because, of course, there's only one ball, right? That's kind of the joke that everyone's saying. But how you space the floor, how you run set offensive plays to get quick hitters, it's going to be very interesting how that offense is going to be ran.
And
Go ahead,
here's
Sean.
one tidbit I'll add, because this is what we'll end it on, because I think this only describes the beginning of what's about to start happening with the Clippers. This is a direct quote from today's press conference, his introductory press conference with the Los Angeles Clippers. Quote, "I'm not a system player. I am a system."
Right. Like, how do you even have that mentality when you have 3 All-Stars by your side?
Well, and also he came in saying I was on a leash with Philadelphia, that I'm, that they can't put me in a system. I am the system. And then immediately follows it up with, "Oh, I'll do whatever Ty Lue asks me to do. I'll do whatever the team needs me to do." Like,
Right, but that's almost a delusional statement to say, "I
not
am
all,
the
Troy,
offense."
not
It is.
almost. It is delusional in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But Troy, this was a fun one. Pistons basketball is going on right now, so
Yeah,
we'll
I
cut
just
this.
turned it on myself.
Oh, yep. So we'll cut this one a little bit short. But folks, thank you so much for tuning in. As the weeks come, we're going to be having a whole lot more coverage. If you like this pod, be sure you like this video, smash that notification bell so you don't miss any content coming to the channel. But also be sure you're following my guys on social media so you don't miss anything going on with them as well. But folks, that's going to do it here for now. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you're subscribed.